Jennifer Sanasi, you're watching News 24 Live. Well, the second weekend of the Rugby Championships is upon us. Now, of course, we're going to be talking about the huge game, Springboks versus Argentina in Argentina. But before we get to that, we are just going to touch on the New Zealand-Australia game, which is happening just before that. Our Sport 24 editor, Garen, is joining us in studio. Garen?
How you doing, Jen?
Good, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Now we're going to be talking Australia versus New Zealand.
Right, a big game obviously down in Australasia. You've got the return fixture, if you like. Last weekend those two teams did battle in Sydney. They're in Auckland this weekend. You know, that game was also played in the rain, much like the game at Loftus Versfeld.
Jeez, that was a...
terrible conditions.
Yeah.
And that game finished 12-all, no tries in the game, very unlike a New Zealand-Australian match in triless. But they're in Auckland this weekend. I expect the weather still to be pretty cold, as it tends to be this time of the year down in New Zealand. But hopefully we see more tries. Australian team unchanged from last weekend. New Zealand have been forced into a couple of changes through injury. They've lost Ma'a Nonu and Jerome Kaino, which are key players for them. They've got Conrad Smith back, so you know it offsets sort of the loss of Ma'a Nonu. But it should be a fantastic battle. You know, obviously South Africa will have an eye on that game, playing later in the evening. A tough game to call. You know, New Zealand can't really afford to drop more points than they did in the first game. They only picked up 2 points for the draw. I expect them to win, but I think it's going to be really close. You know, I wouldn't be totally surprised if Australia do upset them. But I think at home New Zealand might be a little bit too smart for them. Obviously Auckland, Eden Park, sort of fortress for New Zealand. That's where they won the World Cup a couple of years ago. So New Zealand to win by 3 or 4 points, but Australia definitely to pick up a losing bonus point in that game.